This NL Wildcard Series predictions and Game 1 picks betting edition of the MLB Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code MLB SGPN to get 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and the NFL with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Welcome, everyone, to the MLB Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Here to get into the NL Wild Card Series starting on Tuesday evening. We'll give you our series predictions. We'll get into the game ones, of course, as well, and wrap it up with a best bet and possibly a prop that we do like either for the games or the series for the National League Wild Card. But it's October. You guys know what that means. It's playoff baseball. I'm excited. That means we get day baseball. But it's just going to be a lot of fun here for the postseason, as it always is. But joining me here to help me break everything down for the National League, I got my guy here with me. You got him know him as the voice on the NBA Gambling Podcast. Joins me on Sunday mornings for the pregame show for the NFL Propcast. I got my guy. It's Lonte Smith. Lonte, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Man, doing good. New month. It's time to get down to the games that really matter after sifting through kind of spots during the last month of the season. So yeah, man, I'm glad we got some baseball. We got some meaningful baseball, more importantly. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, man. I know we did the preview yesterday for the American League with myself, D-Rock, and Malcolm. That was a lot of fun. Kind of did recap what we saw in that doubleheader on Monday between the Mets and the Braves, and obviously implications if one team would have swept both games, that the Diamondbacks would have gotten it. But I think more than likely everybody knew that it was going to be a split between the Mets and the Braves, and fortunately for those two clubs, at least they are into the postseason here. So with the results of Monday for the National League, now the Mets are going to be taking on the Brewers in Milwaukee, and then the Atlanta Braves are going to be traveling to the West Coast to take on the San Diego Padres. So should be fun series, not only for the National League, but also for the American League. I think this is a great reminder as well. If you haven't already listened to the American League, there's still time to get at consumed and listen to what we talked about here. I know the first American League wildcard game kicks off in about 3 hours here. So definitely will be a lot of fun. All right, before we do get into the National League Wildcard Series here, SGPN has the most DGen pregame shows in the world. Saturday College Experience YouTube is live starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And for the NFL, the Propcast, like I mentioned, kicks off at 11 a.m. on Sunday Eastern Time, followed by the Sports Gambling Podcast at noon Eastern. So for all your last-second bets, your DGen parlays, your calls, and more. So join us on those pregame shows that do happen over the weekend. Oh, look who made an appearance here in the chat. There's Captain Insano. He hasn't been here for a while, but good to see him in the chat there. I know him and his, or I know you're a Yankees fan as well, Lonte. Yep. So we'll see what happens with the Yankees. But again, it's fun that we've growing this MLB pod from when me and Mal started, and like the guys that we had at the beginning that would join us just in the conversation. At that time it was Slack, and now Discord. It's just it's amazing to see those guys that were still with us from day one. So here, like, and Captain Insano is definitely on that list. So good to see him in the chat there. All right, Lonte, let's get into it here, man. We'll start here with the first game in the series that's going to be transpiring in Milwaukee between the New York Mets and the Milwaukee Brewers. We'll get into the series predictions first, and then we can talk about game one that is going to be happening on Tuesday early evening here. So let me get the updated odds right now for the series prices for this series. So right now, the Milwaukee Brewers are favored at minus 135, followed by the Mets at plus 115. for this series. We saw it on Monday, the first game, which was an absolute thriller. I'm not going to recap everything that we did see in that game, but if you have any thoughts that you want to give from that game, you can. But we talked about it with Dylan because he is a resident Mets fan. But the Mets were, they played some outstanding baseball. You got to give them credit where credit's due for the way they played. From August onwards to punch their ticket to the postseason here. But Lonte, if you want to have any thoughts from Monday, then we can actually get into the series and who we like to win the series.
Man, yeah, crazy roller coaster game, especially in game one. But I think me and Scott had talked about it on Sunday. I think after game one, we pretty much knew what was going to happen. And it's not like it was something that was out of the ordinary because most times during the regular season, teams split during doubleheaders. So it was nothing out of the norm. But I think the roller coaster that, fans were on in that game one was probably like one of the better results or games that I've seen in a while. So I think we pretty much knew what it was. I think the bigger situation coming out is the injury to Chris Sale,
right?
And what's going on with him. But I'm pretty sure we can get into that when we talk about Atlanta or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I think the Mets are. I think it's a bad spot, but I think they're the better team, top to bottom, in my opinion.
Yeah, and again, it is a tough spot for both the Braves and the Mets. Obviously, having played that doubleheader. I know the Mets didn't play a lot of their everyday guys in that second game and didn't really need to. The concerns that you do have for this Mets team, at least in this first game here on Tuesday, is that the usage of the bullpen, especially in particular with Edwin Diaz, who did pitch, I believe, on Sunday, and also pitch. I think we had like 40 pitches or some odd number.
Yep.
In that doubleheader, or at least in the first game, I should say. They brought him out in the 8th inning, and then also to close it out in the 9th. I think I saw a note this morning that said that after the 8th inning was over, the manager for the Mets told him that he was done, and then Edwin Diaz, in so many words, says, "No, I'm going to go out there. I don't care what you say. I'm going to end this. I'm going to end this game." So, and he did. So give him a lot of credit for the way that he was able to come out of that 9th inning and close it down here. Yeah, look, when we talk about this Brewers team here, Lonte, it's, historically when we've seen them in the playoffs, that they've struggled to score runs, right? They've had all the pitching in the world, when they had Corbin Burns and they had, Brandon Woodruff and, Freddie Peralta. We'll talk about game one here in a minute, who's going to get the game one start for the Brewers. I've always said that, yeah, the first thing I'm always looking at is pitching when we talk about the postseason, but it's also the fact you have to be able to score runs, and you could shut down your opponent for so long, but you always also have to be able to score runs, and I think that's kind of been the setback for this Brewers team. And I think I know it's a very bad spot here for the Mets, coming out of that doubleheader, but I agree with you that I think that they do win this series here against the Milwaukee Brewers. I think that up and down, this team has now a lot of confidence, right? I know Francisco Lindor is dealing with a back issue, hit that go-ahead home run in that 9th inning. Some of the other guys have been stepping up, the Brandon Nimmo's of the world, the starting Martes of the world. The pitching hasn't been too bad for this Mets team either, right? Luis Severino is going to get the game one start for the Mets, has been very serviceable for this rotation, and I think has exceeded expectations for this Mets team. Maybe that burns a little bit, talking to Yankee fans about it, but it is what it is for them right now. And again, some of the other guys, the David Petersons of the world, that have really stepped up for this Mets team. It's funny that where would this Mets team be if they had Kodai Senga as well, right? In that rotation for them. So I think up and down, I like the momentum that number one that the Mets have. They're one of the hotter teams coming into this wild card series. So I do think that they get this series. I liked it at plus 115. If you think that's a bad spot in game one, that you think the Brewers win and the Mets do end up winning the series, you can get that at 7-1 for them to do that. But overall for the series here, Lonte, I do like the Mets with you at plus 150. Anything else you want to add for the series?
Yeah, I like that bet. Mets, well, I guess Brewers win the first game, and then the Mets win the series. Just going off, I don't trust the pitching staff for Milwaukee at all. Peralta's been fine, but even he can be, somewhat erratic at times.
Yeah.
And you got Manaea going. Severino's been shaky on the road. He's allowed 4+ in 5 of his last 8. But again, you would rather go ahead and get that out of the way. You got a higher upside in game one. So I think game one is a bit of a mulligan for them. They're just going out And obviously they're going to try to win, but I don't think they're really pressed to win this game with what they have on the back end, knowing what the Brewers have on the back end is not as, it's not as potent as what they have. But I like Milwaukee in game one. I really do. I mean, obviously tough spot. Mets second playoff appearance since 2018. They haven't won a series since 2016. I'm sorry. They haven't won a series since 2018.
Yeah.
Milwaukee also, real patient at the plate. They dominated the series last week, 14-9 in the 3-game series. And I think they kind of lit up that last game, and they haven't had anything to play for in like a month, like 2 months. Like it's been a while since they had something to play for. But yeah, I like the Brewers in the game one, I like the over, but I like the Mets to win the series. As much as it pains me to say that.
It's also the fact of the rust and the rust factor, right? Like for the Mets, like they had that momentum from the game on Monday. Like, is that something that can carry over into game one and steal game one? I think that's a possibility here for the New York Mets here. I know that, again, we talk about the situational spot, but no, I think that you're obviously going to get maximum effort from every single team, obviously, because it is the postseason, right?
Yep.
And Freddie Peralta, let's get into game one here. So game one right now, I think that's a good, great segue into it. Freddie Peralta getting the start here for the Milwaukee Brewers in game one. And it is going to be, like we mentioned, Luis Severino getting the game one start here for the New York Mets. Brewers are a -148 home favorite in this game one, +124 for the New York Mets. Total is at 7.5. And we just started talking about Freddie Peralta, that, hasn't been, I guess, the most consistent guy from what we're used to seeing. And now he's been catapulted being that number one starter for this Milwaukee Brewers team, where it was more, he was behind Corbin Burns when he was there with the Brewers, and then when Brandon Woodruff was there as well. But on the season, 11-9 with a 3.68 ERA, but he pitched better on the road this season than he did at home, right? 17 starts at home this season, 6-5 with a 4.01 ERA. 3.29 ERA on the road this season for him. And he did face the Mets, I believe, one game earlier this season. 6 innings, he allowed 1 earned run, which was, I believe, a solo home run that he did give up in that game. So a pretty solid start for Freddie Peralta in that game. So as much as I want to take the Mets in game one, I wouldn't be surprised if they won it outright. It's the fact that, Captain Insano mentioned it in the chat there as well, that walks tend to be a concern for Freddie Peralta because he's issued at least 2 walks in every single start in the month of September for this Milwaukee Brewers team. So, and if you want to go back even further, he allowed at least 2 walks in the month of August as well. So I think that if the Mets are able to stay patient, I would not be shocked that if they were able to generate some runs early in the game and possibly if Luis Severino is able to settle in and they steal game one here. So I understand the spot is a great spot right now for the Brewers, but I'm going to go with the Mets here in the game one, man. I think that they can steal it here. I think they can ride that momentum from Monday. You didn't have a lot of guys that's in that everyday lineup that played in that doubleheader, or second game, I should say, that doubleheader. I know Pete Alonso was out there. I think Brandon Nimmo played in game 2 as well, but I think they're going to be ready to go here in this game, just kind of riding on that momentum. So I'll be contrarian here. I'm going to go with the Mets in game 1 here. Lonte, what do you got?
Yeah, so I like the Brewers. I don't like the over. I mean, not just specifically just a spot thing, but I think what you talked about with Severino and his road woes. I mean, his hit rate's been a little bit higher as of late. He's allowed 4 home runs in his last 3 starts as well. 10 earned runs combined in that stretch. And I mean, I do think that Milwaukee may be a little bit disrespected right now. Just hearing all the jockeying and, we would rather play Milwaukee. Now, whether that means a lot is to be determined, but I just think that they'll come out here along with that spot and play well offensively. Severino's going to pitch to contact. I know Milwaukee's not the best offensive team, but they've been a lot better than what we've talked about, what we've seen in prior years, where it was the complete opposite, like you mentioned at the top with Woodruff and Burns and those guys. So as long as Peralta can kind of stay within the course, I mean, and Sano took one of my better props, the walkover. I would ladder it up to like 2.5. I mean, he's had 8 straight without allowing over 4 runs. I mean, without allowing over 3 runs, but he's had 13 straight walking 2+ batters, and I think he walked 3+ in like 3 or 4 of those games. So, if he can stay within the confines and be good, and Milwaukee kind of jump out early, I think they roll here. So I could see like a 4-1, 5-2 type of game. So I'm leaning towards the over. But I guess with that score, I would have to lean under. I would have to go under. So I'll go Milwaukee and under.
Yeah, and again, Severino did have a start against the Brewers earlier this season. 5 innings, 11 hits he gave up in that game. 3 earned runs, 6 runs overall. So I think that again, there is a possibility that this could get over the number here of 7.5. And again, a lot of time, I think not just for this game in particular, but it's really for all the games that if I see a pitcher that really settles into those first couple innings there, especially that first inning, then they could, they can really roll for the rest of the game. I think there's potential for these guys at least to, maybe if Severino could go at least 5, 6, 6.
He's gonna have to go at least 6.
Yeah, right with the bullpen usage.
Yeah, he's gonna have to go at least 6.
Yeah,
if he doesn't, they're in trouble.
Yeah. You got anything else for the game 1 here, or anything else for the series you want to mention for the Mets and Brewers here, Lonte?
No, I just like that. What you mentioned, you said it was 7-1 for Brewers to win game 1, Mets to win series.
Yeah, that was what I was looking at last night.
Yeah,
Let me see if there's a updated number for that. Let's see here. Wild card. Yeah, series double here. So we'll go. It's down to plus 650 now. So a little bit
cool.
of
that's cool.
but it's still a good number.
Yeah, I think that's still a good number. I think that's a fair number because you got to think Mets will be favored in the last 2 games if they lose. I mean, if you're going to go with Manaea and
they got Manaea going on game 2.
Yeah, so yeah, I think they'll be fair. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. But that's all I had though.
Okay. All right, before we get over to the for the Braves and the Padres series here, let me tell everyone about our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Pick'em has one of the biggest menus for all sports: NFL, college football, MMA, WNBA, NASCAR, and more. Their lobby is jam-packed with profit boosts, and you can now use specials and boosts on all flex entries. I'm going to put in that Peralta higher on his walks issued here for the entry here for today on Underdog Fantasy. So sign up with promo code MLB SGPN to claim your special pick and first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's underdogfantasy.com. Make sure you use that promo code MLB SGPN. All right, Lonte, let's get into the second wild card series that will be happening on the West Coast, at least for game 1. That is going to be the Atlanta Braves, who won game 2 of the doubleheader against the New York Mets. They are going to be taking on the San Diego Padres. Currently looking at the series odds for this particular matchup. I'm currently seeing that. Let me get back to the odd screen here. Yeah, so Padres are now minus 180 to win this series, plus 150 for the Atlanta Braves here. And obviously the big concerns are, the talk is for the Braves that they're missing, key guys from beginning of the year, right?
Yeah.
Spencer Strider, who left with elbow injury, Tommy John at the beginning of the year, Ronald Acuna Jr. tearing an ACL, unfortunately, again. And like you mentioned, Lonte, earlier, Chris Sale, who was supposed to start game 2 for this Atlanta Braves team, ends up with what's been classified as back spasms, and he will not be able to pitch in this series, possibly. I haven't seen any official news about that just yet. But when you are dealing with back issues and back spasms, it's very, very tough there. So a little bit thinner now in that pitching rotation for this Atlanta Braves team, which was really carried by, right, Chris Sale throughout the season, Ronaldo Lopez there as well, Spencer Schwellenbach, who had a fantastic outing in game 1 up until what happened in the 8th and 9th inning. So they have some depth there, and I would just imagine where this Braves team would be if they had Spencer Strider at that top of the rotation there for them, because if you imagine Spencer Strider, Chris Sale, Ronaldo Lopez, and even having Schwellenbach kind of in that hybrid role, you can make the argument that would probably be one of the better, if not best, pitching rotations, not only in the National League, but possibly in the entire MLB postseason, including the AL rotations there as well. But let's get into this series here, Lonte. Braves and Padres. Who do you like to win this series?
Man, listen, I'm a Zag. I kind of like the Braves. It's just strictly off of, so to me, I think that the Braves have been playing better offensively than what they've shown in the previous whenever those guys went down, because they went down a little bit earlier in the year. It took some time to adjust. At one point in time, they were an under cash machine.
Yeah.
But as of late, like the past few months, they've been really hitting the ball well. I think they've had guys step up in and out of the lineup, no matter who it is. They've been playing, really complimentary baseball. The bullpen's been pretty good. But if you look at like, well, let me ask you this: would you go with King in game one, or would you have went Cease? I would have thought they went Cease in game one.
I think Cease pitched on.
Oh, is it just a rest thing? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it might just be a rest thing for because I want to. Cease had faced. I forgot who they played over the weekend.
You might be right though.
It was
the
the Dodgers. No, actually, he pitched last Tuesday, so he would have gotten the full 6 days of rest in between.
Yeah.
There.
This will be the 7th day. Yeah, this will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I would have went with Cease instead. I mean, King is fine, but I would have wanted to go with Cease here.
I think Michael King honestly has been in better form.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah, I would rather Cease, but I mean, Atlanta's lineup is right hand heavy, especially at the bottom of the lineup. So,
right,
and their splits are, just expanding it throughout the season. The splits aren't that good, but if you just shrink them into what they have been as of late, I mean, they've been really good. I think this is everybody's darling. The Padres, everybody loves the Padres. They didn't dominate. They won 4-3 head to head this year. Only one of those games was close for either team. I think it was blowouts either on both sides. Both teams ended pretty well. 7-3 the last 10. I think it's just getting a little bit of value with Atlanta here. If they can steal game one, it's a bad spot for them. Obviously, the same spot that we talked about with the Mets. But I do think Atlanta has a better shot of pulling off the game one upset than the Mets do. So I think we get 1-0 in our pocket. And then I'm guessing they're going to go, what is it going to be? Fried, Morton, Lopez?
I would hold on, let me see, because I
don't know if they put it out yet. That's why I was.
Yeah, so I know RotoWire does a pretty good job of projecting starters. So it seems like for the Braves tonight, I know we'll talk about game one here in a minute, that they have Ian Anderson that's going to be starting for them.
Oh,
yeah, man. I on another website I did see what you mentioned about Max Fried potentially going, but I see him going tomorrow on the Wednesday game 2 for Atlanta against Joe Musgrove.
I guess they're just going to play the back end. Yeah, I mean, I like them in the series. I just think it's a decent enough value to bet them here. I'll have to reassess for game one. Obviously, just depending on who goes. But yeah, I like Atlanta in the series, man. I think they can be pretty sneaky, man. I mean, I know Ronaldo's coming back from an injury, but he pitched 6 innings on Saturday, and so I think he should be fine. And Cease has been like up and down here and there. King's hit rate's been a little bit lower as of late. Only 1 home run allowed in 5-game span, but he can blow up too. This is a big moment for him. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Atlanta here.
Yeah, I do like the Padres in this series. I just think they are the more complete team when we talk about pitching rotation. To get that Chris Sale thing, it just throws everything off for the Braves, man. Because I mean, if you had Chris Sale going possibly in game 1 here of this wild card series, I mean, I think the conversation would be a lot different. And
even in game 2,
series, even in game 2. But then I would have thought, like, okay, because the Mets won game 1 of that doubleheader, you would have had Chris Sale going in game 2, and then I think then it would have been probably Max Fried getting the start here for the Braves in game 1. But I mean, you mentioned about Michael King. He's just been in absolutely fantastic form over the course of the last, I mean, we could say 2 months in September and August. There was only one game where he gave up 3 earned runs or more. That was all the way back on August 7th, where he gave up 3 to the Pittsburgh Pirates. But other than that, it's been 2 or less for him, and he's just been in really, really good form. So what you mentioned about Dylan Cease, I think that's going to be the wild card. Because if his stuff is on in game 3, because I see Joe Musgrove that's going to go on Tuesday.
Oh, God. Yeah, I like the Braves in game 2. I want to fade Musgrove.
Yeah, they got Joe Musgrove slated for game 2, and then Dylan Cease, I think, would be game 3. But I like Michael King here. I think this is a good spot for him here in game one. I also honestly we'll get into the game one here. Let's get into it. But as far as the series, yeah, I like the Padres here. Padres game one and Padres to win the series at plus 105. I think that's a good spot or a good bet for this series if you don't want to lay that minus 180 juice with them. Getting over to game one here, Lonte here, like we mentioned, it's going to be. I'm saying Ian Anderson. I don't understand why Max Fried maybe is not getting the start here. Let me just take a look. When was the last time he pitched?
I think it's been a minute. He should be on extended rest, to be honest.
Yeah, because the Padres starters, I think they're on regular rest. Maybe even have an extra day here, but he pitched last Thursday. So what would it be? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So he'll be on 4 days rest. Would be Max Fried. So I think they're keeping him on his regular schedule. But also the fact, Lonte, he pitched 8 2/3 innings in that game.
Oh
his
yeah,
last
yeah,
start
that's
as
right,
well.
that's right, that's right. Yeah.
So maybe that's a possibility as well there. But he has great career numbers. I know we'll talk about game two, obviously, tomorrow, and I'll talk about the schedule for the week now, just because the playoff games are during the day as well at the end of the episode here. But game one here, let's get into it here. Like we mentioned, it seems like it's going to be Ian Anderson for the Atlanta Braves. No official starter has been announced even yet. We still have a lot of time before the game starts, about, I think, close to 8 hours. But we know it is going to be Michael King for the San Diego Padres. Padres are a minus 180 home favorite here, plus 150 on the money line. Run line is minus 1.5, plus 130 for the Padres, plus 1.5, minus 155 for the Braves. And total is set at 7.5 in this game. This is the NL games are the two higher totals for the wild card games that are happening on Tuesday here, Lonte. But I know you said you like the Braves for the series, but what do you think about game one?
Yes, I'm gonna lay off game one. I was handicapping it. I mean, obviously it was a TBD before we got on or saw that. I thought it was going to be somebody else other than Anderson. I'm not really a big fan of Anderson, to be honest, and who knows how long he goes.
Right.
So it could, but I mean, I trust the bullpen. It's just something about the Braves, like down the stretch, the way their offense came on, because they got one of the better defenses in the majors. And San Diego's got a low K percentage, so they're going to put the ball in play. It's just a matter of if they can put it over the wall or in the gap. So I think that I'm going to go with the over here. If you look at San Diego at home, they're hitting 271, 4.9 runs per nine. And I talked about Atlanta's offense earlier. They're averaging 4.7 runs per nine on the road. And in their last 10 versus righties, they're hitting 273, 5.4 runs per nine on 7.7 hits. So I think both teams have the ability to kind of get the ball in play and get guys on. And once they get guys on, we saw what guys like Ozuna can do in those big situations, Michael Harris and some of those guys. And obviously, the San Diego offense kind of speaks for itself in the way they've been going. Right. So I like the over here. If I had to lean towards the side, I would go with Atlanta, just pure value based, thinking that we're going to get I think this is going to be a dominant. Dominated bets. I'm not a bet splits guy, but I think a lot of the bets will be on San Diego.
Yeah, I do like the Padres on the run line here, minus 1.5. I just feel like, again, the spot, right? I think the travel situation is a lot more difficult for the Braves in this game, having to go all the way to the West Coast versus the Mets that are traveling a little bit north, right? From Atlanta there. I'm sure they went straight to Milwaukee. And I'm just a fan of Michael King, and I think he's been absolutely fantastic this season for this Padres rotation. I know he was part of that Juan Soto deal to the Yankees, but we talk about this everyday lineup and the batting order for the San Diego Padres. Everybody's healthy, and I think the one thing I look at when I'm looking at backing teams in the playoffs, number one is pitching. But also, I really like Luis Ariz at that top of the lineup there for the Padres, man. He's just a hit machine, a guy that can get on base for you. I think sometimes those are the differences, when we talk about playoffs, because a lot of these teams, they want to put their power guys at that one spot. And I'm still kind of old school, and I believe that you should have those table setters at the top, guys that can get on base for you, steal bases. And then you let your heavy hitters and your power hitters bring those guys in. But I've been a fan of Luis Ariz ever since he was with Minnesota. Went over to the Marlins and got traded over to the Padres. Fernando Tatis Jr. is healthy. Manny Machado. I think also the X factor is where you're going to get Alexander Bogaerts as well, right? Because he has that championship experience when he was with the Boston Red Sox. I know they signed him to that huge contract, but I think that if he's able to, number one, I know defensively he's going to be great, but
Yeah.
whatever he's able to provide offensively for this Padres lineup, I think that's just going to be an added bonus for them here. So, again, I was leaning towards the Braves, but that Chris Sale news, Lonte is just kind of really throwing things off for me. So
Yeah.
we'll see. And I'm trying to figure out if he even made the roster for the wild card here for the Braves here. But yeah, I'll go Padres -1.5 on the run line for game one, at least against the Braves here. You have anything else for the series that you
No, I
like?
don't.
Anything for
Yeah,
game
no,
one?
I don't. Kind of the Chris Sale thing kind of threw me for a loop as well. But I mean, I just I'm going with Atlanta because I just think it's something about the way they've been playing offensively, and I think their defense is going to be fine. If they can steal game one, I think we're in business.
Yeah, and Jeff Passan did report yesterday that Atlanta Braves manager Brian Snedeker told reporters he does not expect National League Cy Young favorite Chris
Oh
Sale, who was
man,
scratched on Monday with back spasms, to pitch in their wild card series
jeez,
against the San Diego Padres. So
man,
again, a huge loss there for Chris Sale again, who was again he's going to be the Cy Young Award winner because he did also get the triple crown as far as pitchers go in the National League. All right, Lonte, before we get into our best bets here for the Monday National League games here, let me tell everyone about our good friends over at Rhythm. Um, SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the number one AI powered back sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model, copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, or press build a model for me, and Rhythm gives you predictions for every game and player prop, and also has a myriad of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insights. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. And we're also brought to you by BetUS. Bet with the best in the business, BetUS. BetUS has been around for more than 30 years, easily deposit user cryptocurrency and getting lightning fast payouts. US players are always welcome. Use our link to sign up and get a 125% deposit bonus on your first 3 deposits. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS, promo code SGPN, so they know that we sent you. BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook. All right, let's get into our best bets here for the National League Wild Card Series happening on Monday. Lonte, game one picks, and then if you have like a prop bet you want to give out for either games or a series prop bet or anything that you want to give out as a prop. Don't have to, but at least let's at least start with the best bet here for game
yeah.
one.
My best bet is going to be the Brewers today. I mean, I know it's a bad spot, but I like the matchup with Peralta versus Severino. I don't really trust Severino on the road in a big time spot. I do think that the Mets offensively will be fine, but if Peralta can kind of keep things on schedule, like you said, I'll be watching for that first inning to see. I guess first I'll look at the first 5 or 6 batters. Hopefully that's not the first inning still, but
Yeah,
for
it's
my
really the
sake,
first 2 innings that I'm always looking at.
yeah, but I get what you're saying, and especially in the playoffs, you want to see how dialed in he is because if Peralta starts off shaky and he walks the first 2 batters, it could be a long night, like
Yeah.
well, a short night for him or a short day for him. But yeah, but I think I'm gonna trust Milwaukee's pedigree at home. I'm gonna trust the spot here, so I'm gonna go with the Brewers. What are they? Are they under 150?
For the game,
Yeah.
yeah, they're minus. I see minus 148 on DraftKings. Let me see another book because they are always a little bit more juiced. I
Yeah,
know
I thought I
Bet
saw
Online.
145 somewhere.
Yeah, let me see. Bet Online usually has better odds for on favorites at least. So it's probably in that range of minus
Yeah, yeah.
145 to minus
Anything under
148.
150, I think is fine. If you want to just cap it there at 150. So yeah, I like that. And just for like a little sprinkle on a dog or a long shot, yeah, I like the Brewers win game one, Mets win the series. You said that's plus 650, so that would be
Yeah.
like my derivative, or I guess whatever you want to call it as far as a long shot prop.
Yeah, I do see a minus 143 on
Yeah, perfect.
Bet
Yep,
Online.
perfect.
But let me check our friends over at Bet US. They probably have a good number there as well on the Brewers money line there. But yeah, couldn't talk you off it again. Again, it's just a situational spot, right? Because of what can happen on Monday. with a doubleheader and now having to travel for a road game for game one here. And again, Severino numbers have been better at Citi Field versus being on the road this season. So it really couldn't talk you off of that. TVDBJ joining the chat. He said he's going to be at the game here for the
Oh
Brewers
man,
for
that's
game
great.
one here. So,
That's dope.
yeah. Hey, TVD, do
Slip
us a favor,
something in the
man.
drinks.
Once you get
Slip
there,
something in the
take.
drinks of the Mets. TV.
Yeah, if you want to do that without trying to get caught there, but DM me some pictures. I'll get it posted on our Instagram and our Twitter, and tag you in it. So anytime any of our fans are at games, they usually send pictures over, so we can get that on social media. So if you are sober enough to send us some pictures and just send some my DM on Twitter, I'll get them posted there. All right. So for my best bet, I'm gonna go with the Padres, man, on the run line -1.5 at +130 here. I just think that again, I have the better pitcher on the mound, regardless of who's even pitching here for the Braves. We know that it's going to be Max Fried for game 2, but again, not a fan of Ian Anderson. The bullpen has been used up in that doubleheader. And I think that again, just the environment in San Diego tonight, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. And I think that they can get out to an early lead, and then Michael King can coast the rest of the way. I also do really like their bullpen for the Padres as well. So I think that it's going to be a huge advantage for them when for the bullpen as well. But again, a big series expected from Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., mentioned Luis Arraez, Xander Bogaerts. So they have Jurickson Profar as well. So I think this would be a big game for the Padres and in this series here as well. So Padres -1.5. I'll take some plus odds there for them to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
I'll co-sign that with you. What you mentioned about the Braves there, sorry, for the Mets there on that game 1 Brewers and then Mets for the series at +650. I'm also gonna I'm high on the Padres at least for this series +105 for them to win game 1 in the series. I think that's a nice price for them as well in this game here. I know Kevin Insano mentioned the walks prop for the over for Freddie Peralta.
Yeah,
If you want a player prop for this game, I'll look up the exact number here for this game for Freddie Peralta. I mean, I think it's going to be heavily juiced.
Yeah, probably so.
2+ walks is at -205.
Yeah.
3+ walks is +140. So if you're,
I would go with 3. I would go with 3.
Yeah, and if you're a same game parlay player, you can probably put that in there for Peralta's 2+ walks. I'm really a fan, Lonte, before we wrap it up here, of outs issued props when it comes to the postseason, because you want to get the best out of your starters when it comes to the postseason. Michael King's at 15.5 on his outs prop here. I honestly think that he can go 6 innings here. That would make it 18 outs, but it's at 15.5. You're asking him to go about 5 2/3 here. 5 1/3. I think you could definitely get there for this Padres team here tonight. So I'm very, very just heavy on Michael King and the Padres here tonight. So if they lose like 6-0, and you'll probably find me face down somewhere crying, if the Padres lose here tonight. But should be a fun series. Should be a great day of baseball starting early here in a couple hours with my Astros and the Tigers, but we got baseball all day. And that's pretty much it here for the National League show here. Lonte, anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
I think Jackson Churio goes deep today as well. If you want to just add that in there. I think he has. I think he has a big series, man. I think he does.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun just watching some of these younger guys across the postseason, especially in that game with
Bobby Witt.
Bobby Witt, Royals, and the Orioles there. Yeah. So excited to watch that game as well. Before we wrap it up, because some housekeeping stuff as far as what time we're going to be going live. I think the plan is for us to go as early as possible on the day of the games. I know when it was a regular season, we would go the day before, but we want to see the results, at least for these playoff games, before we talk about the next one. So expect us to be live around 10, 11 Eastern time, around that frame. So I think this is a great reminder for our listeners, number one, so you guys can join the chat, give us your reactions, and then also we can talk about the results that we saw from the night before for these playoff series and going forward here. So that's the plan right now. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the YouTube channel if you do want to join us live. But also, it's important at this juncture of the season to also be subscribed, whether it's on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, wherever the case might be. So you make sure you guys get the pods here on time, and you guys can listen to it well before the games do start. It'll be shorter pods, obviously, because we only have about 4 games. So probably around that 25 to 35-minute mark, so you guys can consume it and get your bets in if you want to either tell us or fade us. That is obviously always up to you guys as well. Lonte, anything else, man?
That's it, man. I think you pretty much summed it up. Looking forward to a good October, and hopefully, we can make everybody some money.
Yeah, hopefully.
Oh, tally site for the picks page. That's what we'll put all the picks in there as well.
Yeah, great point there. Again, make sure also go over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Our partners with Tally Site, we do our picks over there. You can just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com, just hit that MLB tab, and just hit that MLB picks tab there, and you'll see our picks for the playoffs, and you can get our picks there as well if you don't get to the audio version of it as well. So TVDBJ, man, have a good time at the game.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hopefully the Brewers do get the dub for you there, and for Lonte's pick there as well. But it should be a lot of fun for this postseason. I'm definitely excited. Make sure you guys follow Lonte over on Twitter at XXLonteXX. You can follow me there as well at SportsNerd824. Till then, good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off, and always remember to let it ride.